Hi everyone, this is Sailesh here. We'll just wait for a few seconds before we begin. Can people start confirming that you can hear us? I think there is some lag at my end. Can people just confirm if they can hear us? Okay, cool. Thanks for the confirmation. I'm going to add Saurabh, who is the author of our new book, which is Solutions Architect's Handbook. Hi, Saurabh. Welcome to Packt's Expert Insight session. Saurabh, can you please introduce yourself for our readers?
Thanks, Alice, and thanks, Packet, for having me here. And I am author of Solution Architect Handbook, and I'm senior leader of Solution Architect working at Amazon Web Services. And I'm based out of the Seattle and with AWS more than 6 years. And today here to have a discussion and looking forward to learn from the people and provide my advice.
That's great, Saurabh. So, Saurabh, let's start talking a bit about the book. The book was published in January. Can you please talk to us very briefly about what the book is all about and why do you think all solutions architects should have the book in their library?
Yeah, so the solution architect handbook, when I wrote first time, actually I was in my personal experience exploring the different areas or different channel to learn about the solution architect. And being in this field since more than a decade, I gain lots of experience. And what I notice, if I'm looking any particular online courses or books, they are talking about a particular services or particular technology, but the a gap was there which is missing, like how to put all these lego pieces together and then give the holistic picture. And it's not only about providing the end-to-end architecture, but how to optimize those architecture for the performance, cost, reliability, or high availability. And so I thought, okay, let's put all the experience which I have gained over the years and working with the great minded to in a book. And then I come up with this concept. And in this book, if you will see that in first edition when I wrote about first to clarify the solution architect role. There was lots of confusion of what solution architect does. And I think the role become more prominent when cloud comes into the picture, because now we have the end-to-end need of the solution architect. Earlier it used to be the enterprise solution architect who handle more on the business side, and but now it is more on the technical and looking at the 360-degree picture. So and then what so clarifying more on the role, then diving deep into the different architecture pattern, how to optimize that. And at the bonus I added okay, what the soft skills required, because this role is very niche role. Here you need to be a nerd when it comes to the technology, and you need to be outgoing and talking and convincing the people, and putting your point of view together. Okay, so you need to be outspoken also. So both kind of skills required. While you are at one end, you are working with C level executive to tell the business use cases. The other level, you are explaining it to the software engineers. So their horizon is the big there. And when then I wrote the add more enhancement and published the second edition. We are focusing on the more emerging and cutting edge technology and how to make the future proof solution architect, so which include the machine learning, IoT, and as far as you go, the quantum computing is also one chapter there where I try to simplify it and explain the things.
Sounds good, Saurabh. Sounds good. So, the other question which I really wanted to ask you about is the adoption of multi-cloud. So, what do you think is the future, and how do you think organizations are going to look at multi-cloud?
Mhm. So there is a pros and cons of the multi-cloud. Okay, so and you need to be careful when going with the multi-cloud approach. So first I will talk about the pros and cons, and then I will come into the what should be the approach. So the pros is mostly if you are multi-cloud, most of the enterprise fearing about the vendor lock-in. However, the cloud providers don't have the vendor lock-in. Most of the time it is pay as you go model, but when you are putting your workload in one places, then kind of it is high cost going from one cloud to other cloud. But the main problem I see there, the skill set. So if you talk about the major cloud provider, and if you are putting your workload between these cloud providers, so first you have to develop this multi skill set people. And today even it's difficult to get the person in the one cloud provider skill set, so it is becoming more challenging. The second is when your workload need to talk to each other. Okay, so if you have application in one cloud provider, application workload, data analytics in other cloud providers, and then you these workload need to talk to each other, then that will be another issue where you might see the how these two system going to communicate to each other, and that will make it over complicated. So so first I will advise wherever possible try to go with the single cloud to have simplified and leverage all the things provided by a single cloud provider. But if you are really worried about the vendor lock-in and putting all the egg in one basket, then make sure that you have very clear logical separation. The cross communication will be a big challenge.
Hmm.
The approach, so the approach perspective today you can see that from your workload perspective, if you are taking the containers pretty much you can you can package into the one, and you can deploy into any other places. Okay, so all the cloud provider pretty much provide the container workload, so you can lift and shift there from one cloud to other cloud, so that container approach will be very useful here.
Sounds good, Saurabh. So we have our first question from Syed. I'm going to read out the question so that everybody knows what it is. He's asking, what do you think is the future of structural engineering, especially when it comes to automation and parametric engineering? I am a civil engineer who likes programming and parametric engineering.
Okay. So when talking about the structural engineering, so mostly I will talk in terms of the civil engineering. When you are creating the architecture and all those things, you want to visualize into the 3D world, and with metaverse concept is coming more prominent. Okay, and all the cloud providers jumping into that. So not only the structural engineering, and I see the more prominent things where everyone, all cloud provider is providing the digital twin kind of concept as well, which is more like on manufacturing industry. And then it comes to the digital twin is kind of creating the digital replica, which will very clear visualization. And from the automation perspective and civil engineering, I see that the smart spaces is the future here. And even I made my home smart, and by installing the sensors, multiple sensors and cameras and all. And I see that the security automation is there, the energy automation is there, and these all there are so many sensors available. You can put into the buildings a kind of control everything there. So I will say the building automation through the smart spaces is coming very fast.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Sounds good, Saurabh. We have a comment, I think, when you were speaking about containers from a LinkedIn user. His name is Anil. And he's saying that the container approach does not fit with all the business requirements. So, do you have any suggestions to give him or any comments to make on this
Mhm.
particular message?
Yeah, so it depend upon, especially I will talk about the application workload. So application workload, it depend upon how you are going to create your architecture. In the previous days, you were have the monolithic architecture where all the big multi-module things comes into the one server, and obviously container has no place there if you are creating a very complicated monolithic architecture. So in modern architecture, we are going with very RESTful application approach where we are dividing the application into the small logically isolated the functional module, and those small modules can stand as on their own services, and there we can use the container. So I will say container is still applicable, and we can pretty much use into the all the business case when it comes to the application development. I'm not talking about the data workload. Okay, if you are and because then you need the more better servers there for to process terabyte or petabytes of data, but you have to re-architect your workload and to make it more modular and RESTful web services concept where each module can talk to each other, and definitely container will able to address your business use case there.
Okay. Sounds
Mhm.
good. Thank you so much, Saurabh. I hope it kind of clarifies what Anil had in mind. Our next question is from Raj Arun on LinkedIn. So he's asking how to stay up to date with technologies and factor them during the decision making process of a solution. Any tips to get the best of what technology has to offer?
Yeah, so this is one of the difficult things to get up to date with technology, right? So earlier technology used to change in every 2 to 3 year. Okay, I will say in last decade, and last 5 to 6 year, I see that every 6 month technology get changed completely. So there is two kind of things is there. Once is you are looking the long term what is upcoming in the market. Okay, so I will say in last 2 to 3 year we have this AI and machine learning which pretty much adopted everywhere, and this is currently trend going. People are exploring more on that, and it become business as usual. But if you'll see in next 2 year, we are people are jumping more in the blockchain. We are trying to apply blockchain everywhere, and some use cases like ethical fashion, like if Louis Vuitton is selling the baggage and they want to make sure that there is no duplicate, and that proof of validation you can provide by embedding the blockchain into supply chain, and that concept was not there couple of years ago. And same in five, if I will look 10 year in horizon, then you have the quantum computing there. Okay, so we can like try to explore the travel spaces, space travel, and complex genomics problem using the quantum computing, and once it become stable it will be available. So how to get your up to date means you read lots of technologies articles, and especially look for the announcements, and then dive deep into that. So being in part of AWS, that's the advantage I see. Every day AWS stay ahead in the technology, like we are already building in the quantum computing, we have built in blockchain, AI ML is very matured here. So I always look out what announcement is coming, what features is coming, and once it's come I go dive deep and start exploring that topic. So I will say continuously learning and be curious, and looking around is will help you to keep up to date on the technology.
Cool. Thanks, Saurabh.
Mhm.
Um, let's move on to our next question. That's from Nihal. Nihal is asking that multi-tenancy cloud is the ask in today's world, especially in the finance industry, like hybrid public and private cloud. So, what suggestions do you have to handle this scenario?
Yes, yes. So multi-tenancy cloud is fine. When earlier I talked about multi-cloud. So it was like a it was more focused on the multiple public cloud. So you have AWS, GCP, Azure, or Oracle, or IBM Watson, and whatnot. Some more clouds are there, but multi-tenancy cloud is very much applicable for the financial industry. And I think all the cloud providers provide that kind of construct. In fact, I have put good amount of effort in the book to explain how to create a hybrid cloud. And so one thing, so like I will take example of the AWS. If you have the workload into the on premise, and which you can call it the private cloud also, and then you have workload in the public cloud like AWS, you can set up the connectivity between that using the direct connect, which is like a 100 gigabyte fiber optics line dedicated to that financial institution and cloud. So in that way it handle the latency, because you are not hopping through the internet. These are the very high throughput fiber optics line which is connecting these two data center together. And then you can connect your offices with hub and spoke model, where you have the transit gateway, and then those are traffic can route from the main office to different offices if it is multi country setup there. So so this is one pattern. The other pattern, you want to keep the things which required a very low latency in the your on premises. So suppose, take example of trading. So for the trading you need a three less than 300 millisecond latency. That is one reason. The other reason, for the compliance purpose, you don't want the workload to go out of your premise. So that kind of construct is also available. So like AWS provide the outpost. So outpost is the multi-rack a full-fledged data center, a mini data center, which they can ship to your bank or your premises. You can put there, your data will stay in premise with very low latency, and at the same time it will provide the control plane what AWS has. So there is both option available. Either you put the direct connectivity between the private cloud and public cloud, or you can public cloud provided hardware as a private cloud for yourself.
Hmm. Thanks, Saurabh. Let's move on to our next question. So this is from a user named G Kumar.
Mhm.
What would you suggest someone wanting to transition to being a solutions architect from a DevOps engineer?
Okay. Yeah, so I will say, from going from the solution architect to DevOps engineer is the path where you are going deep into the technology and narrowing your focus there. So like solution architect, you need to know everything, okay, and so that you can take the right technology choices. Okay, so might be you need to know the SaaS, you need to know the PaaS, and 20 different technology. But you are going, when DevOps, you are diving deep on that and mostly focusing on the automation part. So it could be and DevOps is very much applicable in very demand skills currently, because cloud is all about automation. More you automate, the more money you save, because it's pay as you go model. So uh, so when you going in that direction, so I will say you should dive deep on building your scripting. So, and choose what area you want to go. So suppose in if I talk about the AWS, the cloud formation scripting is there, and then chef and puppet is very popular, which is almost everyone uses. And AWS also provide ops work, where you can put the chef recipes and automate the workload. And then you also want to learn, might be Terraform, or which and Ansible, which where you can control both your private cloud, public cloud, and they are kind of cloud agnostic, as well as the on-premise, your private or hybrid cloud agnostic also. So go deep into doing more hands-on on the scripting part. That is very important for DevOps. And learn end-to-end pipeline, whether it could be the code pipeline or code star services. And especially Jenkins is where you apply lots of automation everywhere. It is pretty much applicable all those places. And while not only when you are venturing into the DevOps world, also make sure that you do the DevSecOps also. Okay, and I wrote the full chapter on that. And currently security is very important, and security need to be embedded in each part of your application pipeline. So DevSecOps is important, and looking into the future, you can venture into the MLOps. Okay, so explore the DevOps, DevSecOps, MLOps, and explore the technology like scripting, shell scripting, Chef, Puppet, and Ansible, Terraform, and AWS CloudFormation.
Okay, that's a
Mm.
long list of things to learn. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you once again, Saurabh. You spoke about security briefly, so let's move on to a question by Antonio. He's asking, why are they putting so much emphasis on zero trust architecture and leaving out defense in depth?
Mhm. Yeah, so zero trust architecture is very important. So let's first understand what is the zero trust architecture. So it start with I cannot trust anyone. Okay, so if you have your keys at home, you don't want to even give to your friends. Okay, so you want to keep it with yourself because you cannot trust anyone. Rather than in past, people used to put their keys under the rug. That, but nowadays this is very risky. So when it is coming to the cloud and we are anywhere, we start with the zero trust. It means when I am giving the spinning up any user, a new user onboarding in the company or new contractor or vendor onboarding, when I will create the user ID, I will not give any access. Okay, so and then that person can ask the access for the system where you need where they really need to access. And in a company there could be hundred of system like the HR system, finance system, marketing, and there is supply chain and all those internal as well as external system. Earlier I remember like decades earlier, we used to in past decade we gave all the access and then let's say, hey, people go and enjoy your life. But now that is not the case. We are saying that we are zero trust. We are not giving you any access. Once you whatever access you need for that one particular system, I will give that. So that is the zero trust policy. And the when calling defense in depth, so definitely we need to embed the security as every layer. So if you take a simple three-tier architecture, so if I will start with the top layer, and first you should never expose your server to the internet. So when you have suppose 20 web server which are exposing the UI to the customers, you want to put a load balancer in front of that, and which will be exposed to internet. But again, this load balancer need to protected um, uh, by the firewall. Okay, and now we have the web firewall there, and on top of that, you want when you are routing your traffic there also you want to blacklist the IP or the whitelist what country you are expecting the traffic or what region you are expecting the traffic. So I'm just talking about the top layer. You have the three layer of defense there, and I talked about the security sandwich pattern in the book, which go very dive deep onto defense in the depth. And when you are coming to then your web layer should be isolated from your application layer. So by cracking these multiple layer, even anyone get into the web layer, they will not able to get your business logic, because then application layer networking is completely isolated from the web layer. Then database should be on the different region at all. Okay, so every layer you need to apply defense in depth, and overall this environment need to protect by the DDoS attack. Okay, so there you put all the DDoS related appliances there. And then you need the encryption key. You can use the hardware security module to protect your key, and or you use the data envelope pattern to make sure that key, even if someone able to get the hold of data key, they don't get hold of the master key, which is secure in the tamper proof hardware security module. So security is everywhere, and we should look each and every aspect. That is the job zero for the applying the security.
Great. Thank you so much, Saurabh. I hope Antonio found that useful. I'll move on to the next question, which is from Gunjesh Mishra. He's asking, how can a DevOps engineer having 7 to 8 years of experience, what's the approach for solutions architect, and how can we get maximum out of this particular book that you've published with Packt?
Okay. Yeah. So this is the good question, and that's what a book address. So if you will see that for the DevOps engineer, I wrote a one chapter, which is chapter 12. So you will read that and you will find, oh, this looks very familiar. But why these chapters come later? Because you need to know 10 things before that. So I will say the book very well explained about how to start with the solution architect journey. First, you understand the role in chapter 1 and 2, and how they should navigate the organization, what is their responsibility. And then from chapter 3 4, I'm talking about mostly the what is the principles required for to architect a good solution, and talk about the application reliability, high availability, performance, cost. And then in chapter 6 I talked about almost 30 plus design pattern, and it address your multi cloud, hybrid cloud, or event driven design, or restful design, service oriented based, and circuit breaker pattern. All those things is there. And then rest 5 chapters is diving deep into each of the pillar, like the cost, performance, and reliability, and going into each of, there is a full chapter on each of the pillar where we should optimize the architecture. And then goes into after that DevOps comes into the picture. Okay, so you get the 360-degree view how to go about that, and especially focus on the last chapter regarding the soft skills required for the solution architect. Now coming to the question how to go to the solution architect role. So I'm assuming you are looking for the cloud here. That's what the upcoming trend, and it is everywhere. So I will say get some certification there. Like AWS has the AWS associate solution architect, and AWS certification on the solution architect professional. So that will also give your foot in the door. It means when you apply for the role, people will see you have some credentials there through the certification. And again, certification don't make you champion overnight. So definitely then you need to read the book, what I wrote, and similar resources to develop the dive deep on the holistic workload. And then you can easily move into the career.
Sure. Thanks, Saurabh. We have 15 more minutes approximately in the session. We have a lot of comments, so I'm going to actually like screen through some of the comments and then just pick up the ones which are the most detailed. So we have the next question, Saurabh, from Adarsh Thakur. He's asking, it seems to be quite a problem. I think I've come across this myself. So I'm struggling with
Hmm.
keeping up with all the AWS services. So he's probably facing issues remembering them because he writes that when I work on S3 and when I come back to it after 5 months, I, for example, completely forget about S3 Glacier property. How do you keep up with all the AWS services? How do you remember them while developing solutions?
Yes, so I will say there is two part of it. The first is AWS has 200 services, so it is impossible to remember all of them. But you decide what path you want to capture. Okay, so there is around 12 plus certification on the AWS, around 12 certification. So are you choosing the application development path? Okay, and then all the serverless services like API gateway, Lambda, and event bridge, all those become very applicable for you. Are you taking the analytics path? The analytics path, you have the Glue and the EMR and lake formation, all those become applicable. Or machine learning, the SageMaker, and the SageMaker and AI services like text stack recognition all become applicable to you. And database administrator is like RDS, and you have this Redis and Redshift all become applicable. Okay, and DynamoDB. So there is different paths. So just choose which path you want to go and explore those set of services. So then you will narrow it down you to the 30 or 40 services. Okay, and that will be make the job easier. The second is how I remember everything. Like you talk about S3, which is very generic, and after 6 months you forget, and that happened with me. I do a one certification in every 6 to 8 months. So I don't, I'm not the person like sitting. You can do that. You just sit for 2 months and you do all 12 certification. And then what will happen after 6 months? You will forget everything. If you are doing like 6 to 8 month one certification, so 6 month I did solution architect associate. After 6 months I will do six sysadmin, and after 6 months, so in 1 year, if I'm targeting two certification, I continuously in touch with the technology. What are the new things is coming? Because certification accommodate all the new things. Whatever AWS releasing, after release it almost takes 6 to 9 months when they accommodate, I think. So keep that continuous learning flow. And then also I used to watch the reinvent video. So when I do like my free time is when I do the exercise, right? So instead of watching some song or video, I put reinvent video in front of me, and just it helps me, right? And every year you see the reinvent, at least thousand, I will say not thousand but multiple hundreds of videos are coming. So
Yeah.
that will be my advice.
Yeah. Thanks, Saurabh. I think that's extremely practical. I hope Adarsh finds it useful. Let's take up our next question, which is from Daya Patil. So he's asking, as cloud solution architect perspective, TOGAF framework can be reused for design perspective?
So yeah, you're talking about the TOGAF. So TOGAF, I looked into the TOGAF framework and find it very enterprise focused. Okay, but if you will see that there is a well architected framework currently released by all of the cloud providers. Okay, and AWS has the well architected framework with 6 pillar and multiple lenses. And those pillar recently they added the sustainability pillar also. They launched like 6 month in the reinvent in December. And then you have the lens like analytics lens, IoT lens, and ML lens, and all those things. So TOGAF I find is very high level framework there, and you might somewhere I struggle to how I can. This is very broad, and how I can apply in my workload. But what we have done in this well architected framework has used the best practice, also looking at the TOGAF framework and other industry framework, and then providing that advice on the workload design perspective. So I will say if you are looking into the cloud, focus on the well architected framework and you will be good. It included the best practice from the TOGAF already.
All right. Okay. Sounds good. Moving on to our next comment from Jagesh Saurabh. So he's asking how to handle cybersecurity aspects when designing hybrid solution for a customer, especially when there are so many ransomware attacks.
Mhm. Yeah. So I will say same things go from cybersecurity perspective. What you are putting into the your on-prem cloud pretty much is applicable on the public cloud also. So you continue doing what you are doing into the on-prem side. Okay, applying your antivirus or doing the scanning with the hardware devices, and but from the cloud side they provide lots of security, but it is up to you how you are going to apply that, because security is the shared responsibility model where all the security of the cloud, okay, is taken care by the cloud provider. So AWS says that, hey, I'm taking the security of the hardware which is in my data center security and all those things. But when you are designing your application, you need to take care of your part. And then there is a tool. So like I will talk about some tool like a cloud trail is there, which record each and every API call, each and every activity, from which API things are coming on, where it is going. So you can continuous monitor that for the malicious activity. Then they provide the WAF, and which is like a web security firewall. And then there is a defense shield is there. And um, and then you have the security at the networking layer, and there is a best practices which I talked earlier about how to build the zero trust security and how to isolate different things. Now once it comes to your server, you have the system manager there which you can use to patch your server, and make sure that again the OS level security is your responsibility. So you want to apply whatever your enterprise level the security approved software is there. You can apply to the thousands of server using the system manager. So I will say this is very broad topic, and there are lots of tools available. I often see people leave the loophole. Suppose if you are creating S3 bucket, by default, following the zero trust policy, we block the S3 bucket to the public access, so no one can access. But you have the rights and admin rights. You can go and expose the S3 bucket to the public, and that will be very dangerous. So you need to take the right decision by diving deep into the different security tools and services provided by the cloud providers.
Absolutely, Saurabh. Thank you so much for answering all the questions in so much detail, Saurabh. I think I am learning a lot, and we are getting validation from the users that your answers are really nice and descriptive. Now, one thing which I wanted to ask, as one of the product managers at Packt, who obviously works very closely with authors like yourself. So we obviously, one of the primary mottos of Packt is to contribute to the upskilling journey of all the readers and the users that we are speaking about. Now, in the book, the last chapter is focused on the soft skills which are required to become a solutions architect. Now, you work in an extremely reputed organization, which is AWS itself. So let us dedicate a few minutes where you can speak about what soft skills or what skills in general do you think or do you recommend people should bring when they are coming to an interview for a solutions architect role at an organization like AWS.
Okay, so first I will talk about the soft skill, and then I will put some light on the interview process.
Okay.
So the soft skill is required, as I mentioned in one of the answers, that solution architect need to talk to the C-level executive as well as the engineers also. Okay, so C-level executive is that is one of the critical things which you don't learn on every day. Okay, and you don't face that kind of things every day. So I have put a very descriptive things how to go about that. And one key things I will say, we tends to, when we go and give the presentation, we talk about like 10 things, and the end we summarize that. Okay, this is what we want to say. When talking to the C-level executive, you summarize the things first. Okay, because it may happen that you got 30 minutes and something happened because their time is busy, and they say, hey, now you have only 5 minutes, or meeting just cut down to the 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And so if you always need to think about, I got 30 minutes, if I need to cut down in 5 minutes, I should able to communicate my message. So that's what, start reverse. Start with first summarizing the things what you want to communicate, and then put the data and facts behind it, and do the well research because they have lots of information. And see, mostly you want to talk about how it is going to benefit their business, increase the production efficiency, reduce the cost churn. Okay, so if you are talking about, hey, I am going to build a software which will the workload which will use Lambda and S3, they don't care about it. But if you will talk about, hey, I am going to reduce your application cost by 30%, then they are happy, they are ready to listen you. And when you go to the engineering team, then you say, how I'm going to reduce, I'm throwing away your server and I'm using the Lambda, which is pay per second on demand things. So there is no management. Okay, so you need both level there. Then so C-level executive is very important. The second is learn and be curious. And so you need to be always learning. I talked about do one certification in every 6 months and keep learning, and play with the new technology, because a solution architect is all about proving your point of view, which you do with lots of prototyping. Okay, and prototyping comes when you have the you hands on. So you don't need to go at the developer level, but at least you should able to build a good hands on through the simple Python scripting or something like that. Okay,
Mhm.
and then design thinking aspect is very important, because you want to apply the design thinking. And design thinking is becoming, it's like a buzzword you hear, but in my prospect, I look at the design thinking in two line, is leading designing with empathy. And design with empathy means You look at what your user want, put yourself in their shoes, and then think about how you are going to solve the problem. That is the one liner how the design thinking should look. And after that, you build the prototype, test, and prove it. That is the secondary part of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I will come to the AWS interview process, and I will say that it is start with this process is good process where it start with one phone screen, okay, and you can get a written assignment depend upon the team and what level you are going. And in phone screen, normally we check very generic things, how your journal level of knowledge looks like. Okay, so have you breadth? Do you have required breadth in the technology? If you are looking for the generalist role, and if you are looking for the specialist role like security or analytics or ML, how much depth you have. And then we are very much focused on the leadership principle, entire Amazon. So we check couple of the leadership principles there. And if you Google, you will find that there is 16 leadership principle two we added last year. And one of the very important leadership principle we look for the ownership, customer obsession, and learn and be curious. So you need to take the entire ownership because you are going to learn the business. You need to think from the customer perspective, and you need to always be learning. Okay, so all about this quality. Once you pass through the phone screen, there is a 5 round of 1 day interview, on-site interview. In pandemic, we are doing over the conference bridges, but still we call it on-site. And then you will face the two business people or three technical people. And then each of the person we were just checking with your experience. You will never face any hypothetical question, right? We'll never ask, okay, can you design this or design that? We will always ask, we will learn from your experience. Tell me a time when you solve a customer problem. So you tell me what you have gained in your experience, or tell me a time when you have aligned the goal from one team to other team. Okay, so all those questions will come. We just want to learn from your experience. And so, and there is nothing right or wrong because each person has the unique experience. And after those 5 round interview, there is you will hear the result in the 5 days. Okay, so then people convene and they discuss the strength and coachability and all those things.
Mhm. Okay. Thanks, Saurabh. I think we have some unanswered questions. I encourage people to please get in touch directly with me, or please feel free to ask your questions to Saurabh on LinkedIn. We'll try our best to answer those, but I think we'll run short of time. So we will proceed to the giveaway before we conclude the session. Unfortunately, not all the hashtags were recorded by the giveaway tool. I'm still going to share my screen and pick a winner with whichever comments got recorded. But Saurabh, while I do that, in the meantime, can you just scroll through the comments and then just pick one random user? The question you can decide depending upon the quality of the question. And once we have announced the winner through the raffle, you can announce the other winners. So you can do that while I share my screen. Um, so let me just share my screen, and we will do the first giveaway through this. So I'm going to draw, and let's see who gets picked up. I hope it doesn't pick me.
Okay, so
Pick me, so I'm going to draw again. Uh, there we go. I'm just going to draw again. It's just gonna keep drawing me, is it?
you got both the book.
Lucky me. This is the last time I'm trying. Otherwise, we're just gonna pick people depending on the questions you've asked. Okay, great. Adarsh, you are the first winner of Saurabh's book. Congratulations. Saurabh, you can announce the other winner basis the questions that you've answered. Just feel free to pick one random winner, please, and announce them over here.
Yeah, so I see that Nihal Tiwari has very active participation. So another winner, I would like to announce the Nihal Tiwari.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Nihal and Adarsh, please get in touch with me for your books. We will make sure that you get the ebook of Saurabh's book as soon as possible. Finally, Saurabh, thank you so much. It is always a pleasure to speak to you. So much knowledge you have to share with the community, and we are very privileged to have you as one of our authors. Thank you so much. And we will definitely do more such sessions to share more knowledge with the community. And thank you for all of those who participated in Packt's Expert Insight session. We will be announcing the next Expert Insight session very, very soon. Thank you, and have a great day, everyone. Thanks, Saurabh, once again.
Thanks everyone. Very interactive session. I love answering all the questions. So thanks for active participation, and feel free to connect me over LinkedIn, and I will love to guide and answer any question there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you so much, guys, everyone. Signing off.